by single-engine German two-seaters, who throughout the notice with which air raids at the early part of the war were announced, hotly pursued by World War I or pre-World War I Triumph motorcycle. Four sirens were hitting aircraft taking off. The Bristol fighter, most admirable two-seat fighter, one of the great aircraft of the First War, and the SE-5A, one of the two classic end-of-war, saying the only genuine airworthy German aircraft of the First World War, still going. And the Bristol fighter and the SE-5A having gained height rather more smartly than the LVG, which is after all a core reconnaissance aircraft. They were a bit big, a bit heavy, and no doubt has bombs on board, otherwise there's no point. There goes the Sopwith pup, launched as a backup. And any minute now, if they manage to get the rotary running, which didn't always. Now, so far totally undeterred. I told you these German two-seaters were extremely difficult to shoot down. They had a very well-placed gentleman in the rear seat with a parabellum, belt-fed machine gun. Here comes the triplane tearing out to catch up. And round comes the LVG, hacking it a bit late on his bomb run. But we'll see if this is the bomb run. And I think, in fact, this is a close shufty look. 100 horsepower on rotary. Of the pup. Triplane grew out of the Sopwith pup, which grew out of a little runabout designed for Hawker, who was Sopwith's chief test pilot, and neatly turned into a fighter, and a very successful one. Triplane to a new formula by Sopwith's chief designer, a gentleman called Smith, designed all the Sopwith aeroplanes in the First World War. Chivied away and still being hustled by the defence, quite unable to take up a proper bomb run, and as you saw, he was forced off his line, and by the time it straightened up, it was too late to drop the bombs. So whatever that building is, and I have my suspicions, it is safe for democracy for the moment. And the LBG is not looking at all a happy German core reconnaissance aircraft at the moment. In fact, he's so unhappy he's been forced down. Fitted official categories for a score of an enemy aircraft was forced down, which meant that you thought you'd damaged him enough for him to have to land somewhere. It was never entirely certain. Forced to descend was another expression. What quite often happened, of course, was that, so, the gentleman has been overtaken, he's been forced down on friendly territory. His escort is still circling a beautiful Rolls-Royce engine Bristol fighter. Being flown today by Bjorn Singer, incidentally. George Ellis in the SE-5. Roger Bailey, flying the LVG, in fact, is about to be arrested. Aeroplanes, the property of the Shuttleworth collection. Crossing with the attendant motorcycle has gone out to scoop up the German pilot. No doubt take him off to the mess for a drink in time-honoured fashion.
Hands up now.
Oh yes. Hände hoch and all that. Funny thing, but when I went off to my own particular war, Hände hoch was almost the only German words I knew. I actually used them once, and the chap did put his hands up. I was astonished.
Yes, he put his hands up.
Something triplane is a modern rebuild, but with a proper rotary engine. All the other aircraft are genuine. Civilian registry. The best two-seater fighter and not treated as a bomber reconnaissance aircraft. It became tremendously successful. Initially they flew along straight and level as if they were a bomber or a recce aircraft, and they got all sorts of hell knocked out of them. And they then discovered they got an extremely well-powered, well-harmonized fighting aeroplane. And you had all the glory and speed and maneuverability. I think I should just let you watch and listen to this. It's a 109G. It's been flown by Squad Leader David Southwood. It was captured in the desert by the Australians, nicked from them by the Brits, and genuine Daimler-Benz engine. That's about all you need to know. It was a heavier version of the famous 109E and F of the Battle of Britain period, known as Schwere Muster to the Germans. And now I think you should watch and listen to it. Aircraft is a 109G2 tropicalized for service in the Middle East. Issued to 3rd Gruppe at Jagdgeschwader 77. In Southern Aircraft. Was originally captured, abandoned at Gambut in the withdrawal after Alamein, liberated by engineers of No. 3 Squadron Royal Australian Air Force. As it was the only serviceable Gustav that we'd yet acquired, it was taken back to England to become part of the enemy equipment flight for demonstration and tactics. To get it back into flying condition in 1972, chap called Russ Snadden from 216 Squadron undertook the task, and here she is still flying.
Red dot.
There it goes. Step on.
Red dot. Tom, you'll get this one.
Have we flown any of them yet? Wait a minute.
Well, you may as well, because you may never see him again.
No, I didn't know.
To have you here. I don't think I'd make your face too red if I announce Colonel Blakesley as being undoubtedly the finest fighter leader on the Allied side we had in the Second World War. But somebody is quoted as saying that there was nobody else who could control 50 fighters in the air at once the way he could. I doubt if anybody else could do it at all. Does this sight and sound take you back, sir? The sight, yes. I never did hear the sound. We were going to have a P-51 for you to Mustang rather more. Oh yes, oh yes. Last run coming up from the 109.
That's correct. I flew in the air defense of Malta as well as in the Eagle Squadron.
That was getting round quite a bit in those days. American citizen. What did you fly in Malta? Are you still on Spitfires?
Spitfire 5Cs.
Terribly airborne initially, but definitely airborne. And the 504's ancestry or immediate parentage goes back to the days when daylight under the wheels was something of an achievement. Well, in the early days it was measured by gentlemen lying on their stomachs in the grass. Warden row, who series of quite practical, but as usual in those days, usually heavily underpowered triplanes and biplanes. And very early on, from about what, 1911, 1912, 1911 I suppose, which is what you see here. Solid biplane, nice rigid engineering structure. Engine out in front. It was 3 Avro 504s who bombed the Zeppelin sheds at Friedrichshafen after a most adventurous flight from Belfort. Whether or not they infringed Swiss airspace on the way is a moot point. I don't think anyone was looking at the time. It shook the Germans. It shook the Zeppelin inside the hangar too, come to that. And the 504, which made its name, of course, as a trainer throughout the war. George VI had his first flight on an Avro 504.
Yeah.
squadrons. There will be people down there in the audience who know far better than I do. But I think that's it. As far as my... Unless I'm very much mistaken, and I quote Muddy Walker with some relish, on which a WAF once got airborne, was it not? AB 910? Went back to Vickers, National Lockheed Aerobatic Trophy, flying Spitfire and Hurricane respectively, to the astonishment of the Czech and Polish entrants. The two came along just at the end of the battle, but the Battle of Britain was won with an American gun. Mr. Colt, who designed it, Mr. Browning built it. And in 1941 they were putting a rather more powerful engine, about another couple of hundred horsepower, into the... There's that young Indian lady again. She does get around, doesn't she? Followed by the Bullnose Morris, original 1913 Bullnose Morris. Adding a period flavour on the grass. And the trailer pair running in from the right. So to speak, was the Avro trainer, which later turned into the tutor, that's the yellow one, that spread the orders around to keep the aircraft industry in being, give them work. Hawkers were given a contract for a couple of dozen of the little Tomkins, which was the only other competitor to get built. This remained powered by the Mongoose engine. Because only and Rolls-Royce are great developers of engines and always have been, and they're now getting rather more than double the thrust out of it, which has considerably upped the performance of the Harrier. The new supercritical wing with various aerodynamic extensions has considerably increased the range, and the RAF Harrier This will lift over 9,000 pounds of warlike stores. People who are here today that you really should go and see if you haven't done so already are the Flypast magazine sales unit. They're here on the airfield with the new issue of Flypast, which is on sale here today. So that's one of the more important magazines, one of the most important magazines covering the vintage and flying display scene. And if you aren't familiar with it, you should go along, get hold of a copy and have a look at it. And back to our flying display, to more or less contemporary. We've got a couple of vehicles circulating. We should have the military vehicle going down the flight line now is our Fordson Watt 2H wireless fan, dating from 1943, the most recent of all our He had already, some years previously, progressed from the open biplanes of an earlier era, which you had to dress up extravagantly to withstand the wind and the cold and the discomfort, and had gone on to a pair of neat three-seat cabin monoplane of the standard way of exiting a Harrier, which is to walk down to the end of the wing and jump off. chicken and elect to sit down on the end of the wing and slide off, you've got to be jolly careful about the vortex generators. Genuine private owner light aircraft. Our particular Hornet, which belongs to the Shuttleworth, has the standard gypsy major engine that everybody had, as indeed did the Magister behind. Salt that Tony Haig Thomas calls La Rosa, which stands for a loop and a roll on Sunday afternoon, which are Haig Thomas's idea of an aerobatic sequence.
That's more. Yeah, that's exactly
Tiger
what
Moth
he
was
did.
not meant to be an aerobatic aeroplane.
And then he went out into another one with me.
Designed for military training.
I used to do the full loop on.
First ones that came out actually in the late 30s were civilian registered and civilian tow, but it was adopted by the Royal Air Force as the new elementary. The Tiger Moth was the only aeroplane available to this country to enter international aerobatic competitions. Terrifying to think of now. We used to do it. We never won anything, of course. But it's a gorgeous aeroplane to fly. It is totally and highly individual. But if you do something wrong, it will let everybody watching know exactly what you've done. So it was a jolly good trainer. And it was absolutely true, and I suspect still is, that if you could fly a Tiger Moth properly, you could fly anything. It had slats, leading edge slats on the upper wing, which had to be locked for takeoff and landing or aerobatics, in order to reduce the stall straightening around to land. That was another very satisfactory trick. And fishtailing on the way down on the approach, you know, real Biggles stuff. That was the genius of the Tiger, really. It made you feel like Biggles. And here comes the next item of the program. This is Captain Keith Sissons, who many of you here will have seen in his splendid and inimitable displays on the B-17 that he was demonstrating it in Duxford to our American friends last weekend. This time flying plain sailing as Catalina. World War, the first really long-range patrol boat that the Royal Air Force acquired. Appropriately enough, Keith has come to us from a flying display at Sunderland. A happy coincidence. Long range, which made it so useful, of course. It was the first aircraft the RAF had which could close the mid-ocean gap where the U-boats romped, unhampered by any attacks from the air at the beginning of the war. And for that alone, it earned its keep. Rain high lift wing, designed by a man called Davis, and exactly the same reason that the P-51 had the most phenomenal range on internal fuel. It had a brand new, very, very efficient wing. So did the Catalina. In both cases, drag was reduced to the point when several squadrons operating at night and carrying torpedoes, unlikely though it may seem. She was designed to carry them, incidentally. Painted all black and known as the Black Cats, almost inevitably.
We are line black, yeah.
They caused a tremendous amount of mayhem amongst the sort of slitty-eyed merchant tonnage lying around the Pacific, on or beneath the waves. And a highly successful war. 2600 radial engines put into her, which is a considerable improvement on the original Pratt & Whitney 1830s. And one result of the extra power required a very much taller fin and rudder to accommodate it. But it still looks, now they got the famous Catalina blisters over the waist gun positions, back in position, she's still very much the Cat.
This spring up since it's fine. Fair enough. This is back they say in racing circles. Last year today, yes I did. Here she comes. And they also served on fleet carriers and escort carriers throughout the first half of the war with considerable success. Actually registered as Golf Bravo Kilo Tango Hotel, but is never known by that. Built by the Canadian Car and Foundry at Fort William, Ontario, in the winter of 1940. So one of the oldest of the surviving World War II airframes. And now we have the Fighter Collections presentation coming in, which is the just post-war World II Bearcat and the very much World War II P-47. There's the Bearcat going through. Bearcat, lightweight fighter from the same stable, designed to give an immense increase of famous aerobatic team. And long after they'd gone on to much more massive and powerful jets, they kept one F-8 as a pet. It was painted yellow and it was called the Beetle. I don't know whatever happened to the Beetle. Supplying single-seat fighters, biplane and monoplane, to the United States Navy for something like 15 years. By the time the Bearcat came, 20 years. And it's interesting to see what they managed by cleaning up and climbed at nearly 3,000 feet a minute. The Japanese Raiden, the successor to the Zero, climbed at 380 miles an hour and climbed at 3,000 feet a minute. The Hellcat would do 434 miles an hour and climb at 4,000 feet a minute, and that's how successful Leroy Grumman was. Stephen Gray's Fighter Collection from Duxford. And he's flown today, I understand, by Carl Schofield, who's been with... Shuttleworth, marked with the black and white checkers and the 78 fighter group, which was in Duxford from 43 to 45. And this aircraft, MX-6, is that flown by Lieutenant Colonel Ben Mayo, commanding the 82nd Fighter Squadron. Of the Ben Mayo's personal motto, no guts, no glory.
This is going to be a low one, I reckon, because they're right behind the trains.
We're just waiting to see if we get one final fling from the Harriers as they go away from us. And indeed we are. Society, but tell you more about theirs shortly, because here comes our Avenger. Flown to Hellcat and the Bearcat. This is a much bigger beast. 3,700 horsepower under that bonnet. Crew of 3 gunners. By which time, barring the Corsair, Grumman had pretty well got a monopoly of supplying the United States Navy. aircraft.
It's all the ducks with you. We can win.
Carrier onboard deliveries and courier work. Which involves the removal of the big goldfish bowl turret and its replacement by more career, latterly as an R, mostly on the USS Bennington, whose colours she bears. Tony acquired her from the United States some and they serve with distinction in the Atlantic and very largely on the Arctic convoys. I don't think a British Avenger ever dropped a torpedo in anger. They were coming in from our right, I believe. Squadron leader Cutmore for Maroon, or immediately from Maroon. It was a Harrier with flaps down. Couldn't be anything else. Powered by two Rolls-Royce Turbomaker and and Breguet being responsible for the design. Breguet disappeared into Marcel Dassault, now part of Dassault. It was Marcel Dassault Breguet. BSC, of course, is now part of British Aerospace. In this country by Tornado and in France by the Mirage 2000. Still retained by 3 squadrons in the UK in a reconnaissance. Cutmore bringing which stands for the Société Européenne de Production de l'Avion d'École et Combat Tactique et Appui Tactique. Only the French could think of a name like that for a company. Flying the aeroplanes, in most cases, on the airfield. They, in fact, have been responsible for rebuilding quite a number of the aeroplanes in whole or in part. They look after them, they keep them clean and operating. Departure, being taxied by Andy Sefton. And here comes our De Dietrich car from with collection, followed by the baby Peugeot. Gladiator, the last biplane fighter of the Royal Air Force, saw service in the first half of verve and distinction in the Middle East, happily chasing Italians in similar sort of biplanes for a good deal of the time. A most elegant and beautiful aeroplane, in my view. Designed by that same Harry Holland, who for the Royal Air Force. The Gladiator, last of a long line of radial engine biplane Holland fighters. Powered by a Bristol radial engine. 4 guns. It was some claimed to be the first multi-gun fighter in service in numbers with the RAF. You could see under the wings there as he went past the blisters housing the 2 lower guns.
Sorry?
The interesting thing about the Gladiator is that originally it had twice the number, but exactly the same, otherwise exactly the same armament as Folland's SE-5, because it had 2 Vickers guns in the fuselage, the breeches handy to the pilot, where he could hit him with a mallet if it stopped working, which it frequently did. They never did cure the Vickers gun of being a beast. And 2 Lewis guns in the wings. In fact, the original Gladiator started life as a very heavy ground weapon, like the Lewis, but water-cooled. But it was a Gladiator Squadron, 263 Squadron, of course, which put up a perfectly splendid display of Viking in Norway, operating off a frozen lake and destroying quite a startling number of Heinkels and Messerschmitts and Ju-88s before survivors were finally sunk by bombing the ice.
Should be a bit better. But, oh, so my own terrible. That's a bit weak, like me.
Shuttleworth Gladiator, this one, which is now marked up this season, has been marked up in the colours of the Norwegian Air Force, who actually had quite a number of them. Various Air Force, the Finns had a number of Gladiators, which they used with great success in the Winter War, the Continuation War. And quite a number of other countries, the Egyptian Air Force had them. Very popular export fighter. A frame which I think is under restoration. There's the Crossley tender or Crossley staff car, rather going fast. The standard Royal Flying Corps tender, squadron tender and staff car of the First World War. There's the remains of one of 263's aircraft, which forms a dramatic. This one, our Gladiator, built by Gloucester's at Hucklecote as a Mark II. Therefore, presumably with a 3-bladed dash screw, not the huge wooden 2-bladed Watts, which was a feature.
A Shuttleworth calendar, which contains some really magnificent colour photographs of some of our aircraft. It is well worth acquiring to take home with you. And also, first mentioned last month when it first appeared, an entirely delightful children's book, rather on the lines of Thomas the Tank Engine, and a pleasant evening and a safe journey home.
Well, what do you think? Not bad.
Well, thank you very much.
The only thing is, I think a few didn't come that they were hoping for, because it seems to have finished a bit earlier than normal, but it was a good show.